All right, welcome back to the Net to Net podcast, NBA edition. I'm here with your hosts, Skelt and Casey. We're back here with another episode. You can tell we are in our throwback. It's Throwback Day, boys. It's Throwback Day. We both got the Cavs jerseys on. I'm rocking the Antoine Jameson jersey. We got Casey
got the
rocking
LeBron jersey,
We got some vintage jerseys on today for throwback. We're going to get right started in the NBA podcast. I'm going to hand it off to Casey.
Yeah, so, a lot has happened since our last NBA podcast. Some teams are trending upwards, some are trending downwards, a lot due to the trade deadline. Luka Doncic has returned for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's looked kind of rusty to start out with, but his last few games, he's kind of been going off. The Lakers are 7-1 in their last 8 games. They've kind of been dominating ever since the trade deadline. So they are up to 4th in the West, and they're really pushing on the Grizzlies, only being a half game back, and only 1 game back from the second place Denver Nuggets. So yeah, I think we'll start off talking about the Lakers. Last night they ended up playing the Clippers at, I want to say Staples, but it's really Lower.com Arena, where LeBron had 28, 13, and 3 assists. Zubac, 27 points, 16 rebounds. Luka went off last night. He scored 31 points, 5 assists. Kind of I wouldn't say a domination, but the score is a lot closer than I thought the game should have been. The Lakers kind of dominated the first half, especially in that second quarter. They outscored the Clippers 35-29. The score ended up being 106-102 Lakers, but all in all, the Luka and LeBron conversation, the pairing, and just the duo itself has really been a success so far. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs, and they look like all that the concerns that you had talked about, Sam, are going away.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's a Crypto Center. You said Lower. That's the Crew.
The Crew Stadium.
That's the hey. In hindsight, the Crew do play today, so we think about Lower.com.
That's true. I was thinking about the Crew.
They're not even playing at Lower today. They're in New England.
Yellow team.
Yeah. Big surprise. So we thought that the defense was going to be the issue, but actually, I did see a thing that's like they rank top 5 in defense right now since they got Luka. So that's a big thing that I've seen. The Lakers, they should be surprised a lot of us. I think, like I said, on the defensive side, they don't have a big man, but you've kind of seen they're getting big minutes out of Jackson Hayes, Trey Jamison, who a great story to hear about Trey Jamison. He didn't play, or he played he averaged 1 point something in high school, barely played. And then it was balling out for the G League. They call him up when they traded Anthony Davis away, and they go. And he's been playing fine. He's a good role player. He comes in and plays good defense, can get you boards, which they need because they are without a couple of their big men. We really haven't seen Alex Len since his lackluster debut for the Lakers a few weeks ago. Coloco's on that 2-way deal. Kleber's out with an injury, so he's not been playing. He has a right foot injury, recovering from surgery. Rui Hachimura, who sometimes will fill in to play the 5 when they go small ball with LeBron, he hasn't been playing either. He's been out for a couple of days. So you're really seeing a lot of guys step up, which is big for the Lakers, I think, especially for that playoff push. I still think that they're going to be still an early exit from the playoffs. I still stand by that. I don't think that this affects their status in the playoffs. I still think that there are a lot better teams in the West that are better than them. And in a 7-game series, if this was a 1-game elimination, I'm taking the Lakers because they got LeBron and they got Luka. But in a 7-game series to go 7 games, we've seen what Luka can do in a 7-game series. We saw it last year get frustrated against better teams. Regular season, but when you get to the playoffs, it's a different breed. It's a different animal. I still think that the big man depth is going to hurt them. I would have liked to see them go out and get a big man in the buyout market better than Alex Len. I would have loved, I'm guessing, they're going to have to do some work in free agency this upcoming offseason. And in the draft, there's a lot of big men that you could go out and get in free agency that's might be available. You always could kind of reignite the Miles Turner rumors, see if we can get him out of Indiana. But then you have like the big men that are in college basketball right now, like Derek Queen and the Kamal Molly watches of the world, that you could go out and get a draft pick. The problem with that is they kind of gave up their picks over the last few years in trades. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think that the Lakers will still be a first round exit.
Completely disagree with you there. I think they're going to make it at least to the second round, maybe the conference finals. Especially, I'm getting more confident the more I watch them. Now, about your point with the draft, it was traded to the Pelicans as part of the AD trade. It's now with the Hawks because of the DeJounte Murray trade. So that pick's only top 3 protected. So that'll end up going to the Hawks. I don't really see them trading up for a rookie, especially with LeBron being 40, going on 41 next year. But it'll more be the who can I trade one first-round pick to get, that sort of area, and who's expendable at the end of my bench. I mean, you look at, there's a few players, maybe a Jared Vanderbilt if he can't stay healthy this playoff season. If you look at Christian Coloco and Gabe Vincent and with his money and everything. But anyways, one thing that I forgot to mention in the opening for the Lakers is they did go to Denver last week, where they faced up with the most dominant center in the world right now in Nikola Jokic, and they held him to probably his worst game in a few years. And although he did have a triple-double, he just looked horrible with only 12 points. He kind of got shut down. It was kind of a Lakers team defensive system. Jokic only was 2 for 7 from the field, and ended up hitting 8 out of 10 free throws. So he really just didn't have the space that he's normally used to working with. And I think a lot of that is because the Lakers are trying to go into that switch everything type defense, and it's really worked out for them so far. Now, obviously, we've only seen that handful of times in the playoffs. I mean, you look at the Death Lineup Warriors, you look at the Houston Rockets when they made it to the conference finals, and things like that. But it's really rare to see. We'll see if the Lakers can do it, but I think if you have LeBron James and Luka on your team, I really wouldn't bet against you to be able to do what you're looking to do on a basketball court. So that's my assessment of the Lakers. I think they'll continue to rise up in the standings. They'll probably end up being the 2 seed, I think, at the end of the season. Like I said earlier, they're only 1 game back on that 2 seed. There's no way they're catching OKC because they're 10 games back on them. So I see them as being a 2 seed playing one of the play-in teams, which right now kind of look scary. So right now, the 7 and 8 seeds are Golden State, who just acquired Jimmy Butler and look deadly right now, and Dallas, who will have Anthony Davis come back. And the 9 and 10 seeds are Minnesota, and Anthony Edwards is a playoff performer if we've ever seen one, as well as Sacramento. That could be an easier matchup. And then just outside of the plan is the Phoenix Suns with the Kevin Durant, with a Devin Booker. But that's kind of where I want to talk about next is the Phoenix Suns and how disappointing they've been this season. I was able to see them the last few days. They ended up playing my Pelicans 2 out of the last 3 days. The game where the Pelicans played all of our players, Zion dropped his first career triple-double with 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. They kind of smoked the floor with Phoenix in Phoenix, and they just looked like a better team, even though they're a 16-win team. So when you're trying to be the Phoenix Suns and you bring in all this talent and you put all of your draft capital and everything towards winning now, and you're out of the plan and you're losing to a 16-win team, regardless if they have Zion or not, it still just is a horrible look on your franchise. And now, yesterday they did end up winning, but the Pelicans did rest all of their key players, so you're expected to win that. But overall, I think Phoenix just don't have it this season. I really don't see them going. Maybe they make a push for the plan. Do they even get out of the plan? Probably not at this point, because they don't have a great center. Nick Richards is all right. He's serviceable. He's not great. You still don't have a good point guard to go and feed next to Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. And just the locker room, everything you hear about the Suns is just negative, negative, negative. Everything's being put on Booker or Kevin Durant wanting to leave, or Mike Budenholzer not being the right coach for these guys. So that's just why you see so much dysfunction in Phoenix right now. Sam, what do you think of Phoenix? Do you think they get into the playoffs at all? Or do they even get into the play-in?
That's a tough one. Well, Phoenix is that team that you see that has all on paper. They got a big three: Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. You got Kevin Durant, who's missed some time with injury. You have Bradley Beal, who's this would have been a great trade, probably 6 or 7 years ago, when Bradley Beal was
When he was
peak
averaging
Bradley
30, yeah.
Yeah, when he was good. Now he's just been injured. And we talk about Bradley Beal. He's only started 26 games of the possible 41 games he's played. He's just hasn't been healthy. Booker's really been your bright spot for most of the season. KD's been here and there with injury, rumors of trading. Back to what I was saying. This is a team that you see teams do it before. You see the likes of LeBron and Dwayne and Chris Bosh teaming up in Miami, and then you build pieces around them that fit the system. And then we've seen teams, and I think this is kind of just going with KD wherever he goes. KD has been on so many weird big three teams that have not worked out in recent years. We talk about the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie and James Harden. We talk about now with Bradley Beal and Booker. You can maybe mention towards the end of the Golden State Warriors, but that was more of KD being injured and Klay Thompson being injured. It's just the players that are around them are not great. I think the center is an issue. You give away Yusuf Nurkic, who's a big body who can get boards, and you replace him with Nick Richards and Isaac Iguodala. They're just not going to get it. I think their point guard is fine. Tyus Jones is a good defender. He can get the ball to players. He really doesn't need to shoot the ball that much, and that's really what he is. I think that if they want to make a push, I think it's time to start thinking about benching Bradley Beal. Don't start him. I think maybe you insert Grayson Allen to the lineup. He can give you that 3-and-D kind of play that you probably don't get from Bradley Beal, to be honest. Bradley Beal is not the same defender he once was, and to be honest, he really wasn't a great defender to begin. I think Grayson Allen you bring Grayson Allen into the lineup, it kind of balances out the floor. He gives you great defense and he gives you shooting, which you need. But I think it hinders on the center position. And just looking at the rest of the West, I think they missed the playoffs completely. I don't think they make the play-in. I think honestly
you think the play-in too?
I think the 4 teams that are in the play-in right now are better, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. We're talking about the Warriors, who are 7-1 since acquiring Jimmy Butler. You have Dallas, who, yes, Anthony Davis went down, but they still have Kyrie Irving, who's playing lights out this year. You have a team around Kyrie and Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, who played very well last season and is playing good this season. PJ Washington has stepped up again. Daniel Gafford, they still have. That's 2 big guys that really Phoenix can't compete with. And, they got Klay Thompson. You got playoff Thompson. Let's see if he comes in clutch. And then we talk about Minnesota. You hit on the head. Anthony Edwards is a playoff player. He is made for the playoffs. He will show up when it matters. And you have Rudy Gobert, who is still a defensive menace in the front court. Julius Randle, Naz Reid, big bodies. Still, I don't think they match up well. And then Sacramento, you talk about Sacramento, they got Sabonis, they got Vucevic. They have Valanciunas. That's a great duo to have coming off your bench and in your starting lineup, because when Sabonis gets tired, you can just put in Valanciunas, and he's a proven center in this league. You have Zach LaVine. You have Keon Ellis, who, in my opinion, probably should start more games because what he gives you on the defensive level. I just don't see Phoenix competing in the West. This West is always competitive. And we saw it last year. Teams are going to be 1 or 2 games out from the playoffs. But this is also the Western Conference. If you have a losing record, you're not making the playoffs like you would in the East. I believe 7 through 10 have a losing record, and they are in the play-in. So I just don't see Phoenix being able to pull it out at the end of the season. And I do think that they look to try to offload Bradley Beal and offload Kevin
Probably
Durant.
can't, to be honest.
They probably can't. They would have to throw in a
No
bunch of
trade clause,
picks.
that's why.
Yeah, he would have to sign off on it, and I think KD gets offloaded this offseason. I don't see a way that Phoenix keeps these guys around. I think maybe you buy out Bradley Beal, but that's going to be a lot of money, and I doubt they do that. So they're just going to. Bradley Beal has the same contract that freaking Paul George has. It's untradeable. It's too much money to get off of. KD,
it's Paul George, yeah.
And KD, I think he gets traded. I don't think Phoenix works out. I would have liked to see him get traded at the deadline. I think it would have been a big story, and I think it would have been cool to see. In my opinion, I think KD, I think he's nuts for saying he doesn't want to return to the Bay. I think if he were to return to Golden State, they would have shot up to one of the favorites to win the finals. But we'll see where he goes. There are some spots that I could see him fitting with. So yeah, I just don't think Phoenix has it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there. I think, well, one, KD's definitely going to leave this offseason. I think the reason he didn't want to go to Golden State isn't because he doesn't want to play in Golden State. It's because it's going to gut their roster, and then they're not going to be good enough to win at all. Because they're going to have to give up a Brandon Pajemski. They're going to have to give up Jonathan Kuminga. They're going to have to give up picks. They're going to have to give up Andrew Wiggins and all these other guys. So it probably got the roster a lot. So it'd have to be KD, Steph, and Dre do everything for the team and not have much supporting help, which isn't a recipe that's worked in Phoenix. So why would it work in Golden State as well? I mean, when you look at those old Golden State teams when KD was there, they had Andre Iguodala, they had Sean Livingston, they had JaVale McGee, they had all these supporting guys who were there to play their role, and they did it very well. So I think that's why. He also went on Draymond Green's podcast a few days ago and said somewhat of the same thing where he basically said, I cost a lot, so it really wouldn't work out without a full offseason of free agents and acquiring more players and so on, especially when it was so close to the trade deadline, they couldn't really make any other moves. But one other thing that caught my eye with Kevin Durant's interview is he said that he wants to win. First of all, he was asked by Draymond, do you want to retire in Phoenix? Do you want to end your career in Phoenix? He said, I want to win wherever that's going to be, and so on. And I'm paraphrasing here, but that's basically what he said. And that tells you everything you need to know. Sometimes players even say that they want to stay at places they don't. But when he doesn't say that he wants to stay there, you know he doesn't want to stay there. So that's just kind of that media game that I'm thinking about. The Suns aren't going to do anything this season. The real question here is Booker going to leave at some point? Is he going to request out? Because he's been loyal to this franchise. They've put people around him, but they really hasn't been enough to get over the hump. I know he did have that one chance in 2021 where they played the Milwaukee Bucks and lost in 6. That was his best chance to win a ring. I'm pretty sure his best days in Phoenix are going to be behind him team-wise, record-wise, and playoff-wise. Booker is going to be Booker no matter where he's at, but the Suns are in a downward trajectory. They don't have their draft picks, so maybe they try and acquire those. And hot take, maybe he goes to Houston, who have their draft picks. So we'll see there. But anyways, enough talk about the Suns. That's all speculation and everything. But that's just my hot take there. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors real quick. Because like you said, they've been on fire since they've acquired Jimmy Butler. And it doesn't seem like they're missing a beat here. Steph Curry just dropped 56 against Orlando the other day. He looks unreal. But Sam, I'll let you kick it off with Golden State and what you think about it.
Yeah. Like I said last episode, we said that Jimmy Butler's kind of a good fit with Curry, and Curry kind of needed that second guy since Clay left, and it's worked out great. Jimmy Butler is a proven player. We saw what he can do in the playoffs before for many years. If that was in Chicago, if that was in Minnesota, and that was in Miami, taking Miami all the way to the NBA Finals and the Disney final. back during COVID. It works. You talk about Steph Curry. This is one we talked about it last time. It's one last ride. It's one last dance for the Golden State Warriors because Draymond knows it. Steph knows it. This is probably their best opportunity to win. We're talking about Jimmy Butler, who can give it to you both offensively and defensively. He was known to be a defensive player when he came into the league. He's changed his game over the years to be able to do it on the offensive side. Yes, he struggled last game, only 5 points, 7 assists, shot 1 of 7. So you're gonna have those games that you're gonna be off, and every player goes through that. I don't think there's been ever a player that's never had a bad game before. Steph, like you said, dropped 56 points. He had a tremendous game. They're really going back to that small ball with Draymond at the 5, which the Warriors are one of those teams that you can run that works small ball all the time, pretty much for them because Draymond's physical enough to play the 5. Unlike some players that will try to play the 5 as a smaller player, but it doesn't really kind of work out. Draymond's always been a pest on defense. Steph, he is not slowing down. I think one, it takes a lot of pressure off of Steph, and Steph can get ready for the playoffs because I think they're going to need players to step up. Hopefully, Trace Jackson Davis can get healthy before the playoffs because he's been a bright spot for them. Same with Jonathan Kuminga. Hopefully, he can come back before the playoffs. And then give it to credit. They call up Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox has had one of those kind of feel-good stories in the G League. He was balling out for the Santa Cruz team down in the G League. He got another 10-day contract, but maybe we looked for him to play some valuable minutes in this playoffs. He's averaging 21, 8, and 2 with the G League Cruise. Look for him to play some minutes. I like the Warriors. I think if they can click at the right time, I don't see why they can't get to the NBA Finals. I think their ceiling is second round, or I think their minimum is second round. It's just this year the West
Really?
is
You think they're a minimum second round exit, even though they're in the play-in right now?
Yeah. I think they can match up against anyone. I think they can match up with a lot of these teams.
Do you think they beat Denver? Like right now, for instance,
The only
they're the
teams
7th seed. Do they beat Denver in a 7-game series?
I'm gonna say the only teams that I don't see them matching up well against is Denver and OKC. So anything if they get in, I think they can sneak into that 6th seed. To be honest, I see them passing Los Angeles Clippers for that
Okay.
6th seed.
I could see them beating Memphis. Can they beat the Lakers?
Yes, I think they can. I think they can.
Woo!
I think they can.
I disagree big time. I think the Lakers would smoke them.
I think the Warriors have a better team around Steph and Jimmy to go 7 games deep than the Lakers do with Luka and LeBron. Yes, Luka and LeBron are a better tag or a duo than Steph and Jimmy. I just think the players around them, like a Moses Moody and a Jonathan Kuminga and a Trace Jackson Davis, are a little bit better than a Lakers team that has to rely on Jackson Hayes and Rui Hachimura and
Austin Reeves and
Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah,
Garrett
these guys
Vanderbilt. They have some pieces.
They have pieces, but they're not. One, they're not. I want to say that they're consistent enough to give them what they need. I think they're just outside of Austin Reeves. Dalton Connect's having an okay season. Rui's here in and out injured. I just don't see them matching up well. I think the Warriors, with their experience, I think they have a better coach. They have better players around them. I think if we're looking at the rosters, you got Brandon Podziemski is, I think, a better player than Dorian Finney-Smith coming there. I think Moody is a little bit better than I don't know. Who's on the Lakers?
Austin Reeves?
No, I wouldn't say Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves is better.
No. Austin Reeves is like, well, I'm talking about off the bench a little bit. So
off
like,
the bench?
Yeah, like the Gabe Vincent, Moody. I would rather have Moody than Vincent. He's struggled since coming over to the Lakers. You got Jordan Goodwin, who's only played 8 games. Are we really going to trust Jordan Goodwin in the playoffs over the likes of a Kuminga or a Pojemski? Probably not. I just think the Warriors, pound for pound, are going to be able to compete with anyone below the Thunder and the Nuggets. Grizzlies would be interesting because Grizzlies have the size. They do have the size on Golden State, but they also have the size on LA. And other than outside of it's just kind of hard to pick because a lot of these teams are good, a lot of these teams are close, and like Houston, yeah, they're the 5th seed, but the playoff experience isn't there. I don't see them going that far, to be honest. I don't see Houston going outside first round, to be honest.
Another hot take.
Yeah. I just think the playoff experience is going to show with that team. Yes, you have Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks who have been to the playoffs before, but if they get paired up against like a Grit Memphis or a
They have a Jeff Green.
God.
Yeah, I think Lakers are better than the Warriors. I think they would beat them in probably 6 in a playoff series. It wouldn't go 7. You're going to have 2 30-point scorers in LeBron and Luka. You have a 20-point scorer in Reeves, and you have a bunch of defense around them. I think that's a recipe for winning, but that's just me. Let's actually switch gears here. So Sam and I both came up with a don't speak until you hear a better player than. So Sam, we'll start with my player first, and that player is Allen Iverson. Don't speak until you hear a better player than Allen Iverson. Ready? Tracy McGrady, James Harden, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm in sure.
Dwayne Wade. See, I was the Ray Allen thing was close because he's a phenomenal shooter, but really outside of shooting, Ray Allen, the defense, yeah, he's a decent menace. Yeah, Dwayne Wade is obviously better. I 100% would take Dwayne Wade. Yeah, my guy, we're gonna go big man, Dirk Nowitzki.
Ooh, cooking up. All right, here we go.
Yeah, sure. All right, we'll start it off easy. Andrea Bargnani, just a nice throw in. Karl Malone. Oh, I got you. Horace Grant. Okay. Pascal Siakam. Just as a big man. Kenyon Martin. Okay. Amari Stoudemire. Okay. Tony Kukoc. Larry Johnson. Okay. Sean Bradley. Okay. Pau Gasol. I thought I'd get you there. Another foreign big man. Okay. Charles Barkley. That's controversial right there. Okay. Patrick Ewing. I'm gonna go with let's go with Kevin Garnett. KG, big ticket. Okay. All right. Dwight Howard, Mr. Fundamentals himself, Tim Duncan.
Yeah, Tim Duncan's better.
All right, I got you there. My next was gonna be
KG was the closest other one for sure.
Okay.
But I just think, Dirk, he led his own team. He did it for so many years, and he beat the Heatles in their own backyard.
Yeah, I think Dirk is. I think if we're talking about all time best foreign players to grace the NBA, Dirk is up there. I would have said Pau. I would have went Pau.
No, dude, no, stop.
Pau was just a monster. Pau was good.
Stop.
If we talk about what
Pau lead his team to a championship, his own team.
Yeah, did it for Spain.
A champion NBA, dude. He was led by Kobe, bro. Come on. He was the second best player. Well, who would you pick, KG or Pau?
Probably KG. KG, big ticket. Yeah, I'd say
Tim Duncan's a top 7 player, so you can't rule him.
Would you say Dirk's the best?
Dirk's probably top 20, I think. KG's probably top 25.
Who's the best foreign player to play in the NBA?
That's a good question.
Probably. I think the best foreign is Pau just because of the titles, but no, he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best player. Well, we're saying who's the best player who had I'm saying the best success, best who did it. Yes, Dirk is better than Pau.
You're talking about success. Why wouldn't you just say Manu Ginobili? But he's not better than these guys. So
exactly.
I would say Dirk is the best foreign player ever.
Okay. Okay.
Better than Giannis.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna say Giannis. I was
But,
gonna say
but Giannis definitely has an argument. He's got multiple MVPs. He led his own team to a championship. I mean,
I would say Jokic before Giannis.
really? Yeah, I guess he has
Yeah,
more MVPs, and yeah, that's true.
I think the top three have to be. I would say Jokic, Dirk, and those are the top three. Best
No,
four.
Giannis is
Yeah.
better than Pau Gasol, dude.
If Giannis,
Giannis is better than Pau Gasol. Stop it.
if Giannis had another championship, I'd give it to him.
Are you crazy?
I
Oh,
think Pau. I think you're underrating Pau. I think Pau. What
well, I
Pau
think
did.
Pau's a great player, but he was a
Yeah.
number 2 on a championship team. Giannis is a number 1. He's a Finals MVP. He dropped 50 in a closing game. 50, dude.
I gotta side with Pau. I think Pau is a tremendous player.
Well, yeah, he was a great player. I'm not debating.
I would
He's a
I
great
would
player.
say 100% top five or the top six best foreign players go Jokic, Dirk, Pau, Giannis, Luka, and Mark.
Let me ask you this: what do you think Pau Gasol's best scoring season is? Best scoring average of his career.
I think he averaged like 20 something when he was with Vancouver.
What do you think? What's his best scoring season?
I want to say it was like 22, 23 maybe with the
Best average was 20.8 points per game. 20.8. Not 28, 20.8. And Giannis, I believe, has averaged 30 points in a season before. And he's a better defender than Pau. So I think it's pretty clear to me. Neither of them could shoot very well, so that you can't use that argument. So I think it's clear Giannis has more MVPs. Pau doesn't even have an MVP.
Well, yeah, when you play with Kobe MVP, everybody knows that.
Well, Pau's best season was when he was with Memphis in 2007.
Well,
So,
yeah.
and then he got traded the next year to LA.
Yeah, for his brother.
Right, for his brother. But anyways, moving on. Let's start talking about the Eastern Conference. We've talked about these random players and for long enough. Pau Gasol isn't a random player, but you know what I'm saying there. So last night, I was watching a game, and that's kind of why I'm wearing this jersey. I know it's Throwback Day, but Cleveland was dominating. Well, they were being dominated, but they came back. They ended up playing the championship favorite Boston Celtics last night in a thriller in Boston. They were down at one point 25-3 to start the game, and ended up coming back to win 123-116 in Boston in the TD Garden, with Mitchell dropping 41. Jason Tatum had a great game. He scored 46 points, 16 rebounds, and 9 assists with 3 blocks, which you don't see for him very often. But anyways, Cavs look like they can compete now. I mean, like I said before at the trade deadline, they got DeAndre Hunter. They look like they have the wing defender that they need in order to match up better. No one's going to be able to guard them perfect because both Tatum and Brown both went off in this game. But it looks like they're a better built team to compete going forward and competing in the playoffs as well. So we'll start talking about the Cavs first. They look good. I mean, they're the number 1 team in the East. They're the number 1 team in the NBA right now, record-wise. Celtics are 7.5 games back. What do you think of the Cavs? Like, what do you make of the season? Do you think they can make it to the conference finals? Do you think they can make it to the finals? Can they win it all? What are your thoughts? Sam, I can't hear you right now.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, this team has all the makings to make a conference finals and make a finals. Do I think they make the finals? No. I still think in a 7-game series, it goes to game 7 and it comes out on top with Boston. I just think Boston is proven in the playoffs. The Cavs are not. Yes, everybody can talk about the Cavaliers having a tremendous season, and there's no disrespect to them, and that's not taking anything away from them having this great season and what they're doing offensively and defensively. But in the playoffs, we've seen it the last 2 years. It's the same exact team minus Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert, or taking Isaac Okoro out of the starting lineup, taking away Karis LeVert, inserting DeAndre Hunter into the lineup or wherever, if he starts or whatever, if you decide to go Max Strus, whatever. It's the same team. And we've seen the same struggles in the playoffs. We've seen this team be very good in the regular season. But when it comes time to postseason, and they said it very pointedly the first or 2 years ago when they said the lights were too bright in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, who, by the way, did not have Karl Anthony Towns yet. They couldn't beat a Mitchell Robinson Knicks team. Yes, they had Jalen Brunson, but you think about this Knicks team right now is a lot better than what that Knicks team was. And you would agree with me, that is correct.
Yes.
RJ Barrett is definitely,
yes.
McCall Bridges is an upgrade compared to RJ Barrett. And
OG Anunoby.
Yep, OG Anunoby is an upgrade from Julius Randle. And then we talk about the Pacers team last year, who probably had no business being in the conference finals, to be honest. Who knows how that team got there off the backs of, if you watch them now this year, this team sucks right now.
They're the fifth seed. I wouldn't hate on them too much.
Yeah, fifth seed.
They're tied with the Bucks right now on record.
Fifth seed in the East when this East division is terrible. But you still, Pascal Siakam, on paper, you should beat this team single-handedly last year. You should have beat this team last year, but you couldn't do it. Yes, you can contribute it to J.B. Bickerstaff not being a great coach or not being a great coach in the playoffs with the inexperience. But what good he's done with Detroit. He's literally brought Detroit out of the basement of the NBA over the last few seasons. They're now the 6th seed at 33-27, who I was pretty high on last year with Detroit. You remember that when we did our predictions last year.
Yeah, they were horrible. I told you they were
horrible. They're horrible. And it's the same team, and it's just coaching, right? It comes down to floor spacing when you go into these playoffs with they struggle. Jared Allen can't space the floor well. Evan Mobley, yes, his outside game has improved. But playoffs are a different breed, and we've stated it every time we talk about the playoffs. Playoffs, you're a good team in the regular season, doesn't mean you're going to be a good team in the playoffs. We've seen teams who have been very good. For example, my Chicago Bulls during the 2010 to 2012-13, we were the number 1 seed going into the playoffs every year through that span. We beat the Miami Heat and the Heatles 4 games out of 4 in the regular season. When it came down to push and shove in the playoffs, we won 1 game and lost the conference finals about twice. It doesn't matter how you do in the regular seasons. Congratulations, you do great in the regular season. I'm not taking that away from anyone. I'm not taking that away from the Cavaliers. But playoffs, you play for championships. And if you can't perform in the playoffs, you're not going to do well. And we've seen the Celtics perform well in the playoffs. We've seen them make it to conference finals multiple years. We've seen over the last few years. They finally got over the hump and won the championship last year. They were so close the year before. They were so close again the previous year. So this team, the Celtics, if they have the Cavs have a great team. It's just I'm still taking the Celtics over the Cavs in a 7-game series. If we're talking about a 1-game elimination, it's a toss-up, honestly. Like you said, Donovan Mitchell had a great game last year. But over the last 2 seasons in the playoffs, he really hasn't. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't been able to get that push. We've seen it from Tatum. We've seen it from Brown. They get over the hump. And I just think playoff time, Derek White's going to be a different animal. I think Drew Holiday, he's still that. Yes, he's not going to give you those points that he used to do back in Philadelphia and New Orleans, but he's a great defender still. That's why he was a starter on Team USA, because of that defense. Kristaps Porzingis. Just think about this. Kristaps Porzingis was not healthy during last year's playoff push. Think about now as a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, what he can do against you. And you still have Al Horford coming off the bench, who is a great backup center. Now, if I have to, let's say Kristaps fouls out, you still have Al Horford. When Jared Allen fouls out, you have Tristan Thompson as your backup. That's where it gets concerning. And then Mobley. You have Isaac, Mobley. Let's say, but if you want to play Mobley at the 4 to match up with Kristaps or something, if he goes to the 4, then Really, Tristan? Come on. And Okoro, he's been a disappointment in the league since he got here as a number 5 overall pick in the league. It's just embarrassing. And I have no room to talk. We drafted Patrick Williams with the 4th pick, and he's been a disappointment too. So that's just my little spiel for the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, you made some good points, but you also missed the point about the Cavs. They're a different team. They have improved greatly. Darius Garland is back to being an all-star. Donovan Mitchell is an all-star. Evan Mobley has raised his ceiling, and now he's an all-star. Jared Allen is Jared Allen. He's still going to get his points and rebounds and blocks. Now they have a legit 3 that they haven't had before with this core group. So I think they're built to match up with anyone. If they're going to make a push, it's obviously going to go through Boston. Now, Boston might be going to Cleveland for Game 7, but it still runs through Boston as they're the defending champions.
Exactly.
So we'll see there. I think they're in a lot better position to compete now that they have DeAndre Hunter, but will they win? Only time will tell. But anyways, the last team I wanted to go over before we wrap things up is the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, they have been horrible this season. Now, absolutely terrible. And I am a Pelicans fan, and I feel bad for the Sixers because they're this bad too. The Sixers are 20-38 and 12th in the Eastern Conference. Now, to be out of the play-in as an Eastern Conference team, you have to be really, really bad. Now, even with Embiid missing most of the games this season, they still had Paul George for a good amount of games. They still had Tyrese Maxey for a good amount of games. And they just look dysfunctional as a franchise. They look horrible as a unit and just a team in general. Nick Nurse doesn't look like he's able to bring this group together without Embiid. And even when Embiid came back, he looked like a shell of his former self. Some saying that he may have to be out for a year for surgery and then may eventually retire. I hope that isn't the case because Embiid has always been a fun player to watch in the league. He's always had that flair, the hype up the crowd, talk on social media, all that good stuff. Trust the process himself, Joel Embiid. I'd love to see him get back to that form. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm skeptical. That's for sure. I think that the Sixers should rest their key players for the rest of the season. They won't do anything and come playoff time. They should just try and get a better pick and try and add him to the core of Maxey, Embiid, Jamal McCain, and Paul George. And see if you can get a 4 maybe in the draft, or even just a big man in general for cover if Embiid gets injured again. So just to keep you afloat for Embiid for next year for the playoffs if he's out for the majority of the season like people are saying. But right now, the Sixers are on a 9-game losing streak. Paul George just said on social media that he's going to be stopping his podcast P himself until the remainder of the season. So it seems like he's getting serious about it. You would have liked to see this a month or 2 ago at least, because at this point, it doesn't look like they're even close. I mean, they're 3 games back on the Chicago Bulls, who are also trying to lose. So maybe that 10th spot opens up. But yeah, if I was a Sixers fan, I would be infuriated with this team, with this front office, with Embiid himself, even though it's not really his fault. At least the Eagles won, right?
So that's all Philadelphia's got to go for him right now is Philadelphia winning it all. Yeah, Embiid's only played 19 games. It's just sad to see because he was like you said, fun to watch. He was rivaling Joker as best center in the league, and obviously Joker kind of takes it here. But yeah, it's sad. Paul George has not been the same. Like you said, yeah, he's stopping his podcast, which he probably should have done that in the beginning of the season, like JJ did. So I can see the focus there. We gotta love to him because he's trying to do other stuff outside. He's thinking outside of basketball after his playing career is done. But yeah, it's just sad to see because Paul George was once a bright spot. And I think ever since his injury during Team USA camp all those years ago, I think that's kind of when the trend started to going down slowly. Slowly. That's why I said slowly. So it was down, then it went back up for a little bit, then it went kind of plateaued, and then it went downhill.
I believe he finished top 3 in MVP voting when he was in OKC.
That was like top.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but anyways, Paul George, pandemic P. He's just been a pandemic. I would say, yeah, like you said, the bright spot, Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, the rookie out of Duke. I would like to see what they do in the NBA draft this coming year. They should have a decently good pick for where they're finishing. Like you said, they are trying to lose games. Joel Embiid is being rested for the rest of the season, or shutting him down pretty much, which is probably smart because honestly, if you're not going to make the playoffs, you probably want to rest your guys. But like we said earlier in the episode, Paul George's contract is just too huge to get off of. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. And then in the draft, they're projected right now the 6th pick in the draft. I would like to see them go big man, but I don't think there's a big guy that you could go get that is willing to take with that 6th pick right now. This draft is very guard heavy and wing heavy. So outside of Kamal Watch, you might have like a Derek Queen who's on the rise from Maryland, who's having a tremendous season this year. He's putting up about 16 points a game on about 9 rebounds a game. You have Danny Wolf, who has been honestly kind of a riser as well out of Michigan. I would like to see them go for a wing, though, because I think if they get rid of Paul George, I think you'll need someone to cover. So maybe get a VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor, who could go anywhere from 4 to 6, or Trey Johnson from Texas, who has been he's been consistent, averaging 20 points a game. But there's this draft. It will be interesting to see what teams do. I think my Bulls are gonna tank, or should consider tanking for Cooper Flag sweepstakes if he decides to declare. I think 99% of us think he will declare. As a Duke fan, I'm hoping he doesn't, just because I would love to see the Boozer twins and Noah Met and
But think about it, Sam.
Flag.
If the Bulls got the first pick and Cooper Flag didn't commit, then you would be crying.
I would be. At the same time, I would be sad.
Same thing as a Pelicans fan. Same thing.
Yeah, but I would be, but slightly, I would be okay taking an Ace Bailey or a Dylan Harper as a consolation, because they are playing tremendous basketball right now for Rutgers on a terrible Rutgers team. So we know what they can do on a bad team. Cooper Flag, I would love to see him. Maybe the Bulls can figure a way to get some trades if he decides to stay, and then we draft Cam Boozer, AJ DeBanza, and Cooper Flag in next year's draft in 2026. But that's probably not going to happen. But, yeah, 76ers, I honestly think Nick Nurse will be fired at the end of the season. I think his run is up. He had a great run in Toronto, but that was really it. And we talk about the quality of players in Toronto compared to Philadelphia. At that time, you have a Kyle Lowry, you have Kawhi Leonard on rental, you had Pascal Siakam. Just better players around. Fred VanVleet, even to name some off the bench. This team is a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. I think we're about to see Trust the Process 2.0 for the next 4 years if this thing keeps going downhill where it's going, because you're committed about 50-something million to Paul George for the next 4 years. So, and you have I believe Joel Embiid and Paul George are tied down to until 2027, so that's going to be a lot of money for those two. Plus, you have Tyrese on a big deal now because you extended him, and then so your wiggle room for getting players in is going to be hard unless it's via a trade. But you got to make the salaries work. So if you're trying to go for a big name player, you're going to have to give up Paul George, which no one's going to touch that contract.
Yeah, I mean, Paul George, I don't think he moves this offseason. I don't think they can move him unless they attach first-round picks, which they won't do, because if they're trying to tank, you don't give up picks. Anyways, going back to our older argument, Paul George in 2019 finished 3rd in MVP voting, like I said, averaging 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists on the OKC Thunder, and that was right before he got traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I believe it was like 8 first-round picks or something stupid like that.
Fleece.
But anyways, that might have been the biggest fleece of the century. Anyways, Sixers look horrible. They should tank. Do they end up trading the pick? I don't know. But anyways, I think that about wraps up our episode of the NBA Net to Net podcast. Here with Casey and Sam. Please follow us on all our socials. Give us a like on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. Ask us any questions down in the comments. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. And we will see you all next time. Peace.
See you.